What's going on in the brain when we're falling in love?
You are gambling. It's the exact same mechanism that somebody would go through when they enter a casino.
Dr. Sid Warrier is a DM neurologist. He is also a public speaker and author, an educator who specializes in simplifying complex scientific concepts in neuroscience, mental health, and human behavior.
You can remind our audience how many years you've been with your wife.
I think it's been almost 20 years. And I think I've had a pretty major fight almost every 3 years.
Yeah.
To a point where I think, oh, this is it. We are done. Heartbreak is like amputation. Because a part of you is getting cut off. You don't really know what to do now.
So I want to know from a neuroscientific point of view, why are so many people, especially highly intelligent, ambitious, educated people, facing so many challenges when it comes to finding a life partner?
I know this can be difficult to hear.
Hello and welcome back to Ask the Expert, bringing you expert insights to help you navigate your romantic relationships. Today I am beyond pleased to welcome Dr. Sid Warrier. Welcome, Dr. Siddharth.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Sid Warrier is a DM neurologist. He's also a public speaker, an author, an educator. So we're very excited to have you on today.
Excited to be here.
Yes. We talk a lot about love and relationships on this channel, and sometimes love can make us act irrationally. My endeavor for this conversation is to really understand what's going on in the brain when we're falling in love that makes us act in such crazy ways.
Well, it's the most exciting time in someone's life because to the brain, it's literally getting onto a roller coaster. So when someone's falling in love, they're saying that this one person is now going to be the most important thing in my life. Now, the risk of allocating that much value is, what if you don't get them? So every act of falling in love is also opening yourself up to a lot of potential danger.
Right.
Which is where the excitement comes in, which is where the adrenaline comes in. So that's why when you fall in love, that initial phase is full of heart racing, butterflies in your stomach. All of that is your body going through a sympathetic reaction or a stress reaction. If you take the potential happy ending out of it, that is a very stressful period. Your body will go through that same reaction if it was getting chased by a tiger.
Really?
That's how your body reacts.
That's crazy.
So there is a possibility of something very bad happening, but we are willing to go through that because of the possibility of something great happening.
Yeah.
So that is what love is in that initial stage. You are gambling. It's the exact same mechanism that somebody would go through when they enter a casino.
Wow.
It's literally a gamble that how much can I put in for how much reward and at what risk. And the closer you are to the potential prize, the more you are willing to risk it. Which is why when someone is in love already, they might make irrational decisions. Because for them, the value of that potential upside is way more.
I see.
And anyone else on the outside cannot really empathize with them.
Yeah.
We've all been there, where we are in love and we end up taking decisions that all our friends question. They're all left scratching their heads. Their body kya kar raha hai?
Right.
But for you, it makes complete sense.
Okay.
Because the way your brain is calculating risk and reward is very different at that time.
Interesting. And what is the evolutionary basis for that? Like, why would your body put you through something that is so antithetical to like your self-preservatory mechanisms?
Now, this is where there's a bit of conflict in evolution, because while self-preservation is the goal, there are moments where the self is identified with the group. So in those moments, your self is more about preservation of your species, not just preservation of yourself, that one person.
Yeah.
Throughout nature, there are plenty of examples of different animals who die after reproduction, and they seem to do it willingly because in that moment, that seems to be the higher goal.
I see.
So there are examples from insects, there are examples from reptiles. There are several examples like that. I'm very grateful that we have evolved from there.
We get to live to see our kids.
Yes.
Do you have advice for mitigating the sort of bad decisions that someone might make when they're in that stress response? How does someone exercise good judgment while also falling in love?
Well, step one would be to identify that this is happening.
Okay.
We make a mistake in thinking that we are one person at all times, but that's not true. So in your brain, for simplicity's sake, we'll divide it into two parts. There is a primitive brain, the emotional brain, and then there's a new brain.
Like prefrontal cortex.
Yes, exactly. So your prefrontal cortex is the evolved rational part of the brain. The limbic system is the old primitive part of the brain. And these two parts actually don't work that well together.
Really?
Because they have different goals, they have different outcomes. So what they define as a perfect outcome would be very different at most points in your life. And nowhere is this as true as when you just fall in love. Because when you just fall in love, your entire focus of consciousness is in your limbic system.
Like we're just our most primitive selves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you can just identify that, don't try to fight it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible to be completely rational and in love. I do believe that love is one of the most exciting things you can go through. To try to force somebody to be completely rational in that moment, I believe is taking away
from the magic.
From that moment. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's biological. Maybe love is an act of transient stupidity. Maybe that is what it needs.
Wow. Love is an act of transient stupidity.
That's deep. What it is.
That's profound.
It's okay to be stupid when you're in love. Just have sounding boards around you.
Yeah. So have like good friends, mentors, parents who are able to bring the objectivity when you are completely like bathing in happy hormones, your oxytocin, your dopamine, serotonin, all these things being released, clouding your judgment. Very interesting. I want to talk about the difference between initial early stage infatuation and more of like the long-term love. Does the brain interpret those as two different things?
Absolutely, it does. So in the initial phase, when you have met someone, at its core, your brain has attached value.
How does it calculate that?
The way you attach value would be completely subjective to what is valuable to you in the phase that you are in. From the culture that you are in, your upbringing, your environment, all these things come together.
It's not just your biology.
Ultimately, your environment acts on biology. Once you attach value, that person goes on the top of your priority list. More than food, more than sleep, more than anything else. Now, it's very, very important that you have this person. In a way, it's similar to a hunt. It literally is like locking in. So the hormone that is working here is adrenaline, because now your heart is beating, the butterflies, all of that is because of adrenaline, and dopamine. So dopamine, dopamine is the anticipation molecule. That loop, dopamine plus adrenaline, is what makes that initial phase of love so special. Combined with the possibility that you may not get them.
So that's like the risk that makes it so exciting.
Always. What if I don't get them? Now the story can get on to more complexity if you add, say, a rival. So if there's another person who's also trying.
Then it's the competition. That's thrilling.
So that makes the adrenaline twice as high. So all of these will create different unique patterns in your hormones.
That's crazy. That's wild.
As the relationship progresses, the main thing that changes is a sense of safety. So that threat that you have in your mind has started going down. You feel like, okay, now this person is there. I'm not going to lose them. And with that sense of safety, your dopamine level starts to fall because now the anticipation is less. Adrenaline goes less because threat is not there. But this is replaced by serotonin because now you have something that you value a lot. And oxytocin starts to go up because now you are bonding with somebody that you value a lot. So that sense of community and bonding is because of oxytocin. There's also another hormone called vasopressin that also comes into the picture, that is also associated with tribalism, with protecting what is ours,
problem solving.
So one very interesting shift that happens is if I am in pursuit of somebody that I value, I'm still thinking of them as separate from me.
Okay, sure.
The beauty of oxytocin is that the more I associate with them, the more my brain starts identifying them as a part of me.
Aww, that's beautiful.
It is. So the story of love is chasing somebody until they become self. So now they're a part of me.
Right.
That can lead to beautiful things that, oh, you're a part of me. So when you cry, I cry. But that could also be why people sometimes take each other for granted.
अपना ही है, मतलब
अपना ही है, कहाँ जाएगी, कहाँ जाएगा?
Right.
What if that other person isn't feeling that exact level of oneness with you as you are with them?
Yeah.
So they might want to be acknowledged as a separate person. So that is the conflict
or
of love.
like continue to be chased for a longer period of time. That why don't you pursue me anymore? Why don't you treat me the same way you did at the beginning of our relationship? So this kind of explains that.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of people will benefit from a fight.
What?
So a fight brings back the threat.
Okay.
So
Got it.
Oh, you might leave. Now I need to feel adrenaline again.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the initial spark. Oh, this is how I felt the first time I met you.
Yeah.
That's just the way that growth is.
Yeah.
You have to have some resistance, and if you overcome that resistance, that is what growth is.
You get even stronger.
Correct. And the only way that friction happens in relationship is through conflict. So if you are having regular conflicts and if you're able to overcome them, I think that's a sign of a good relationship. If you've not fought in the last 5 years, I think there is a problem.
Right.
I think it is to be cherished. Even though during the fight, no one would cherish it. But I've been through enough number of fights to know that without them, it wouldn't have been.
You can remind our audience how many years you've been with your wife.
I think it's been almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I've been married 10 years now. And I think I've had a pretty major fight almost every 3 years.
Yeah.
To a point where I think, oh, this is it. We are done. That is a marker that so much has happened in the last few years that I've changed so much that now we have to have another confrontation.
Yeah. So I want to know from a neuroscientific point of view, why are so many people, especially highly intelligent, ambitious, educated people, facing so many challenges when it comes to finding a life partner?
There are certain changes that you have to make in your own self in order to accommodate a whole other person. The longer that you spend making yourself really independent, the harder it becomes to include another person with all their flaws, all their requirements, all the needs that they have. I'm not saying impossible at all, but I also feel this is exactly why you do need to be stupid. Because at that point, there's no other reason why would you do it.
Yeah.
Why would you make so much?
You're perfectly happy in your own life. Right. You're fulfilled.
Rightly so. People have put in effort to be the way they are, and why should they change? Why should they compromise? I do think that there is a certain level of stupidity that needs to come in that initial phase for it to be worth it. Once you've crossed that, then it sort of takes care by itself.
So basically what you're saying is that people are very rational, they have their checklist, and they're not giving in or submitting to that rush of emotion and stuff like that.
Love is a risk. I don't think you can fall in love rationally.
Wow.
So if you have a rational arrangement with somebody, absolutely fine, but that's not love.
Okay.
And maybe love can come later. But if you feel that initial spike, that rush, you should go for it.
I see. In terms of your neuroplasticity and how it changes with time and with age, do you feel like in some ways it's better to meet the person earlier and like go for it then? Are there drawbacks to waiting too long, essentially?
I do believe that every brain is capable of anything at any age.
You can still rewire your...
Absolutely. Even if you're 40, even if you're 50, it doesn't matter. If there is motivation and if you have time, your brain can rewire. Whatever it is that you would have felt at 20, you can still feel at 45, 50.
Really?
There's nothing biologically stopping you from doing that.
Okay.
There's no reason why you should.
That's very heartening to hear. I think there's no time limit. So we've talked a lot about the highs of love, the beauty, the magic. A lot of us also experience heartbreak.
Yeah.
You know, what is it about heartbreak that can elicit almost like a physical pain in the body?
Yeah.
And also, what can we do about it from a neurological perspective?
Yeah. When we fall in love, that initial oxytocin
Right.
spike makes your brain identify somebody else as a part of you. And that connection can be very strong, strong enough that when they get hurt, you get hurt. Heartbreak is like amputation because a part of you is getting cut off, and when they suddenly disappear, you don't really know what to do now. And the longer that person has been there, the more the wiring has included them in everything. Coming out of a heartbreak is like getting over an amputation.
Wow.
And I know that this is a harsh term, and I
Yeah.
know this can be difficult to hear, but I also feel that there are lessons to be learned from this. Because the brain is neuroplastic, you can come out of it.
Yeah.
While it may seem almost impossible right after a heartbreak, what your brain is going through is a redistribution of your identity, a regrowth of your identity.
Sure.
So you're like regrowing an arm,
Yeah.
and your brain can do that.
Wow. What is the neurological formula to form new pathways and to wither out the ones that were associated with them?
I think the closest framework that I've come across is from the study of death.
Yeah, I was thinking like grief, it's kind of
Yeah.
the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing because at its nutshell, grief is our brain coming to terms with loss.
Sure.
The truth is that your brain is not equipped to deal with loss. It never was. There's a reason that we have so much fear of death. So many religions have come stemming from that fear of death. There's a reason why we have created this entire story of heaven. Even as a child, when somebody plays peekaboo,
You freak out.
freak out, right? The baby is like,
Where'd
wait,
you go?"
where'd you go? And when the person comes back, there's so much joy.
Yeah.
Because that baby was terrified that the
Yeah.
person is gone. So your brain is not capable of dealing with loss gracefully, automatically. It's a learned thing. I have found that too often we try to jump to the last stage, which is acceptance. We don't allow ourselves to grieve. And I found this to be a mistake. So if you have gone through a heartbreak, please be sad. Grieve. Take their memories. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to burn it all. Because if you don't grieve, all that emotion will have no immediate outlet, and eventually emotions will find some outlet from some unexpected way.
Yeah.
So this is what we study in psychosomatic illnesses. When somebody is going through stress, through grief, they've never expressed it, that comes out as body aches, that comes out as different
Wow.
things, even skin rashes, a lot of stuff. For us, post-trauma,
Yeah.
it can affect your next relationship because if it's not processed yet.
Yeah.
So why not grieve? Why not celebrate what was good and have a funeral?
That's a good idea.
And I don't think people do this enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Like some ritual that helps you accept the reality and
That it's done.
move on
Yeah.
with some kind of grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. I think rituals are a way for the prefrontal cortex to teach the limbic system that it's done. Nothing else will teach the limbic system because the limbic system cannot understand words.
Reason. Yeah. Okay.
Which is why if your partner is upset, don't talk to them. Give gestures. Have some ritual. It could be as simple as sitting by their side or holding the hand or hugging them. Something. But words are not a good means of communicating with the limbic system. So when someone is grieving, eventually they will need a ritual. So the best way to get over a heartbreak is that.
Beautiful. I've never thought about it that way. Thank you so much for sharing. In this generation, it seems like with so much choice, we have almost become addicted to the rush of initial infatuation. How can we retrain our brain to focus on a more long-term healthy commitment as opposed to just wanting that hit of dopamine again and again?
Yeah. The hit comes from the limbic system.
Sure.
You are chasing something and your dopamine spikes up. You have adrenaline, so that brings an excitement. That's exactly what a bungee dive feels like. So anybody who's gone skydiving or bungee jumping would know that feeling of excitement just before you take a dive. But 10 seconds after you've jumped off, you're done with it.
Yeah.
And the way up is damn boring. So you want that feeling of about to jump. That is peak excitement. That is where your hormones are at absolute max. Once you've asked someone out, whether they've said yes or no, it's all downhill from there, as far as the hormones are concerned. And this is the issue with limbic happiness.
It's short-lived.
It's short-lived. It's immediate. It's temporary. And it doesn't add up. Does not really help you tomorrow. So the question to ask yourself is, what kind of happiness are you chasing? And at least be mindful of it. So you cannot chase limbic happiness and wonder why is no higher happiness coming from it, because you're chasing the wrong kind of happiness. Now, the way that you get prefrontal cortex happiness from a relationship is by going on a date with the same person again and again. And yes, there will be a dip in that initial dopamine adrenaline, but something will emerge from it. And you cannot plan it. You don't know when it will come. And then you realize, oh, that's what a long-term relationship looks like.
Previously, at least with our parents and our grandparents, like, was just get an arranged marriage, that's your person. Nowadays, with so much flexibility and such, more modern progressive ways of viewing relationships, people may spend periods of time in more of a casual setup, right? Or people who are okay with more of like a fling here, a fling there, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Is it actually not a big deal for your brain, or is it having some kind of deeper impact on your ability to interpret like oxytocin? Because it's essentially like a false artificial bond with somebody in the absence of a longer term relationship.
Yeah. So let's remove all morals and ethics out.
Neutral.
What has happened in our grandparents' generation was that there was no choice. You find somebody, you stick with them, you will have downs, you will have victories, you will have kids, you'll see them grow up, you will find happiness in that. Now we are sort of dealing with the other end of the spectrum. There are enough people to hook up with or go on small, trips with, or have one night stands.
Yeah.
And limbic happiness seems to be taken care of, but it's the PFC happiness that seems to be a problem. If there is a couple that has solved for the PFC happiness by including limbic happiness, saying that we will stick together, but we'll have an open marriage. Yes, you can have your occasional fling, but my PFC happiness needs to be solved for. Practically, that kind of makes sense. Socially, the issue is, can we trust your limbic system? Every religion, every social structure has always been built on the premise that no, you can't trust the limbic system. Don't even mess around there. Don't drink. Don't smoke. Don't do any drugs. Don't go anywhere near the limbic system. Keep in the PFC zone.
Right.
So if you look at any social or moral code of conduct, you will find that every line tells you to only listen to your PFC. Don't listen to the limbic even once. Whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Gita, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Islam,
right.
Everyone tells you the same thing. Don't listen to limbic. And that makes sense if we are advising humanity. If I take an average person, I don't trust them to control their limbic system. So at a social level, I agree. Absolute and unwavering monogamy is the way to go.
Yeah. And what you're saying is that like maybe individuals may make their own decisions around that.
Yeah.
But broadly, it's too risky to say that open relationships as a whole like can work as a system.
Absolutely.
We have a last question and then we'll draw to a close. But does falling in love look different for men and women?
Men, women, all genders, equally stupid in the initial part of love.
Love it.
There are some differences in the timing and the intensity of the hormones.
Oh, really?
That initial spike is when we are least human. We are most at our animal self. And the longer the relationship goes, the more the needle starts drifting towards the prefrontal cortex. And that's also when all the other things start coming into play.
So the gender differences may emerge there.
Yes, because that's also where environmental differences come in, social differences come in. And as soon as we reach a point where environment plays a role, there will be differences in gender. Because men and women have been going through very different experiences since kids.
Conditioning.
Okay. After that, love becomes very different for both of them.
Yeah. And also like the roles that you fall into, I think, because of your conditioning and how you've been primed.
Yeah.
You kind of take up different roles in
Yes.
in relationships.
But it's very interesting that you go through a phase where gender matters a lot. But then if the relationship goes on for a while, you eventually reach a place of safety again where all the social conditioning kind of breaks away.
Oh, really?
And you do build a little bubble. There's a guy who's very quote unquote manly, who would turn into an absolute baby inside a relationship.
He's a pookie.
Yeah, I think that's the word, right? Pookie. So that can happen because suddenly that man finds himself in a situation where there's no need for any of the social conditioning to affect his behavior.
The performance of masculinity is not required.
Goes away.
Yeah.
The woman can drop all the performance of femininity, for example. And whatever comes naturally comes, but then it's interesting to see how much is social conditioning.
Correct.
A lot of it goes away.
Yeah.
When you're just the two of you chilling.
Then you're just your true self.
Yeah, you're just two human beings. Gender almost does not matter.
Wow. Fascinating. And it's so interesting to see how, while there's so much diversity in populations, within populations, there are also certain tendencies or behaviors that unite all of us, like that are universal in many ways. All of us are compelled to love, whether it's painful, whether it's heartbreaking or difficult, we just love to love. And it's something that we'll put above so many other things.
Absolutely.
I think that's beautiful.
It is. Love is a very core phenomenon. How we put a narrative on love depends on your prefrontal cortex. That core emotion is always there.
Yeah.
It always exists.
What a beautiful place to close.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Ask the Expert. If you enjoyed this episode, do be sure to hit subscribe, share the video with your friends, leave in the comment section below what more questions you have for Dr. Sid. We'll be sure to have him back another time to answer them. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Bye.